introductions. I've got Councillors John Byrne and Debbie Newell at the side of me, and on the right of me I've got John Shannon, the Area Forum Coordinator. PC Paul Milligan is at the back of the room there, and Kath King from the Department of Places, she's representing that department, and Tony Cotton representing Bolton at home. Marion Griffin, the Business Support Officer.
Hi everyone.
Apologies, we've just got one apology, and that's from David Crosby MP. Declarations of interest, this is for John and Debbie. Do you wish to declare any interest in anything relating to the items on the agenda today? Right, minutes of the last meeting. Do people have a copy of the minutes of the last meeting? Right, for those of you who do, if you want to have a look through the minutes and have a look if you can see if anything that's causing concern or you want feedback from, we can do that. If not, can I ask if anyone can move that they're a correct record? Right, can I have a seconder, please? Is anyone at the meeting who can second these? Oh, right, thank you. Right, first of all, I'd like to introduce Tony Cotton from Bolton at home. He's going to update us and give us a presentation on Breightmet UCAM.
No, you're alright. I'll just shout. Hello, my name is Tony Cotton. I'm Head of Employment and Enterprise for Bolton at Home. I've come to tell you just a bit about the Breightmet UCAM Centre and the work that's going on there. I came to work for Bolton at Home because I was working for a different organisation, and I went to see a UCAM Centre and I thought, that's how you do it. You have one centre, you have a manager, usually 2 project officers, and you focus on one neighbourhood, and then what walks through the door of your UCAM informs what you deliver. It's a very simple idea, but it works really well for customers. So at the minute, just to give you an idea, down on New Lane, we've got 400 to 500 people a month coming through the door, and none of those are mandated. So it means we've got the offer right, but we've got the offer right because we just listen to what's coming through the door. It's a very old-fashioned thing that used to happen a while ago, but services have kind of moved away from that now, and we tend to start with a budget and a problem instead of listening to what the customers need. But actually, if more services listen to what customers needed, I think we'd all be a lot better off. So just to give you a bit of an update, down on New Lane, the offer is we offer employment support. Last year, through the 6 UCAM centres, we've got 400 more people into work, which for a housing provider, those figures are amazing. So 650 people attending training, we offer debt and money advice, and then each UCAM will reflect that neighbourhood in terms of the local need. So it's a very basic service that works really well. So you can pop into the UCAM with anything, and then we will pick that up. And if there's a number of people calling in with one particular issue, like drug and alcohol or debt, then we'll bring services in to meet that need. So does anybody have any questions about the UCAM centre? Yeah.
Yeah, where is it?
On New Lane. So down near where the U-Block used to be.
Oh, right.
Where the new Spa is. It's on that row of shops there.
The Breightmet UCAM is actually in Bradshaw. I was wondering if it would be better suited to be placed, say, on Bury Road. Because you have a lot of tenants on the south side of Breightmet, like Long Lane, Beach.
Yeah.
It takes 25 minutes to walk to the UCAM. If it was moved in between both, it only takes 15 minutes to the south side, 15 minutes to the north side. And it seems obviously be on Bury Road.
Yeah.
More traffic, more attention. And obviously the one person saying where it is, obviously they don't know about where it is.
Yeah.
Bury Road, everyone would know where it is.
The initial thinking placing it where it was based on need. Because if you look at super output areas, the greatest need was in that neighbourhood there.
I was looking at the deprivation last night.
Yeah.
But it's the same in the south side. I mean, yeah, the southeast side, southeast side is not too bad.
Yeah.
But the south side, where you've got places like Beach Trough,
Yeah.
it suffers a lot.
Yeah, it does.
And there's probably a good chance that then people aren't using the services because it's too far. Who's going to walk 25 minutes up there, 25 minutes
Yeah.
back?
We do offer services through the library. So we have UCAM services at the library, which isn't too far away from where you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we offer employment support through the library service. So we have one of our barrier busters who works with people one-to-one based at the library.
I mean, I've used the UCAM. Yeah, I think that the staff there are fantastic. It's just I think if it was moved to Bury Road, it'll be better access for everyone.
It's about demand and resources from us. From my point of view, I would love UCAMs like across Bolton. Because I think the model, I've never seen a model work as well in any other area. Bolton should be rightly proud that this model is in Bolton because they don't exist anywhere else in Greater Manchester.
Is it other notices up for when it's at Breightmet Library?
There are, yeah. And if you pop in the library or if you go on our website, there's details there about what's on offer.
And is it a regular meeting?
It's a regular drop-in, yeah.
Right.
So if you're looking for work, people can pop in, can help with a CV, all that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
What I really love about you guys is you can literally pop in with anything and then we'll support you with that and then get to know you. And we've got a great gift, which is the gift of time, which a lot of services don't have anymore. So a lot of services are pushed to deliver over a specific amount of time or deal with specific individuals or groups. And what I love about UCAN centres is anyone can pop in with anything.
Right. Thank you.
There's no other questions?
Yeah, has anyone got any more questions for Tony? Right, you've done a good job there.
Thank you very much. And if you do want to pop in and see it just for a brew and have a chat and see it and speak to the staff, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 5, I would like to introduce John Shannon, the Area Forum Coordinator, who is going to update us on our Area Forum budgets.
Thank you. This is just a quick update. If you've been to a forum meeting before, I just give an update on the decisions that have been made on the budgets that are allocated to the Area Forum. There's 2 budgets. One is the highway maintenance budget, and the other one is what's called the Area Forum budget, more general budget. I'll just go through the budgets and the balances and where they're up to at the moment. There are budgets which covered the period 2015 to 2017, and I'll just report the decisions that were made on those budgets since the last meeting. The Area Forum, the highway maintenance budget, the balance is 0 on that one. The Area Forum flat rate budget, since the last meeting, following decisions were made to award £250 to the Men in Sheds group, £500 to the Scarecrow Festival project, which took place late last year, £1,000 to the Breightmet Christmas Tree and Carol Singing event, which is developing, it's for 2018. £500 for Remembrance Days poppies. These are the bigger poppies that you might have seen in other areas on lampposts and different areas sort of prominently displayed. And £500 for a Remembrance Day bench, which is actually part of a project. That bench is being made. So those are the decisions since the last meeting on that budget, and the balance in that budget is £275. Now, just coming up to this year's budgets, these are called the 2017-18 budgets. The highway maintenance budget, the allocation was £9,600. The balance is 0, and all of that £9,600 was spent on 2 projects. One at Oaken Bottom Road, so that contributed to the resurface of Oaken Bottom Road. And the other part of that £9,600 was spent on Breightmet Fold Lane, on the stretch of road in between the library and the health centre and the supermarkets. So that's that new surface there, plus the new zebra crossing. So that was that budget. The other budget, the Area Forum budget for this current financial year, the allocation is £3,750. And actually that's the balance in that budget as well. Obviously the year isn't quite finished yet, but that budget can be used going into the sort of later in the year. And the councillors will make decisions about that budget, approvals on projects and proposals based on suggestions that are made and that they already have to prioritise as well. So that's a quick whistle through, a lot of figures there, but if anybody's got any questions on the budgets today.
Which Men in Sheds? Because there's quite a few.
There's 2 Men in Sheds that both actually, through previous approvals, benefited from the budgets. There's one based at Lancashire Wildlife Trust.
How's that being used? Because they do use staff wages and they do get a lot of money from Bolton Hall, so it seems a bit of a waste to pay staff wages.
That allocation was used to repair benches in Dome Park, and that was the most cost-effective way of doing it actually with that group.
I thought that £1,000 was given to St James's Action Group to repair benches in Dome Park.
That was discussed at a previous meeting, but
That's on the, that's the minutes.
that was discussed at a previous meeting, but the more cost-effective way of repairing those benches and the group with the capacity to do it was the Men and Sheds group at Rancho Wildlife Trust. That decision wasn't actually, it was earmarked, but it wasn't a decision made at the last meeting.
So do you amend the notes then?
Yes, yes. The minutes of this meeting will reflect that amendment.
What was the area forum going to have the doors repaired? Surely that's the job of the council.
This budget is a budget that's allocated to the ward. It is, compared to the full highway maintenance budget across all of Bolton, it's a relatively small budget, £9,600. It's aimed at priorities that the councillors have become aware of and then identify and approve. So that's why those two projects were held through this budget. But the vast majority of the repairs and highway works in Breightmet are funded through the main budget, the main highways budget.
Sorry, mate. I was not present at the previous forums. On the minutes, it says in 2013-15 budget, there was £6,870 spent on the Oakenbottom Road. On the 15-17 period, £19,200 on Oakenbottom Road. And you're saying now there's going to be another £5,000 spent on Oakenbottom Road. Is there any other road in the area?
That previous approval from last year, that was allocated to Oakenbottom because of the condition that it had gone into, and there was quite a stretch of that road was actually resurfaced as part of that project. It was quite,
Three times running you do Oakenbottom Road.
Sorry?
3 times running you do Oakenbottom Road and all the projects.
That's the amount that was required to make that project work.
Wow.
Wow.
Shouldn't that have come somewhere else? Because the council spent £2 million clearing Chadwicks because they allowed the site to become an unofficial landfill site.
Well, that's a separate...
Because I told the council in 2015 in response to Environmental Services, who said they're concerned that the owner was going to fill the site with as much rubbish as possible and dump it on the council. I told Nick Peel, the cabinet member of Environmental Services, who did nothing about this and allowed the site for the next year and a half to fill up the rubbish. And the road itself was damaged because there were so many trucks coming up and down, it destroyed the road. So now the Area Forum budget is being used to repair the damage caused because this council didn't do anything to stop that site.
Can I just come in there, Chris?
Yes.
The council did do something, and so did the ward councillors as well. In fact, when Chadwicks, going back probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, when they requested a planning application to extend their business, the councillors vehemently turned up at the meetings, the planning meetings, and complained and suggested that Chadwicks move the site to somewhere else completely. We got it through planning that they should be
You're talking
refused
about planning.
to
I'm talking
continue.
about air pollution and the site being used
Yeah, well,
as a
it
refuse
all
site.
links in with Chadwicks.
They're not the
doesn't it?
same thing at all. You're talking about planning, I'm talking about air pollution, and I'm
Right,
talking about
well, I'm
refuse.
talking about Chadwicks and asking them to find a different site.
Yeah,
So it went
that's
through
exactly
planning, and we actually won it at planning that Chadwicks should not be extended, but they went to appeal, and for some reason, and God knows how it happened, they actually won their appeal and they ended up stopping them, which were absolutely mad. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's planning.
Are there any other questions on the budget?
Who decides what spend is made on what road?
On the Area Forum budgets, the decisions are made by the ward councillors. On the wider schemes, across the borough, obviously that's a decision that's made at the executive cabinet level.
Because Blenheim Road, from top to bottom, Blenheim Road is just literally like a mile and a half of really deep potholes. And it's been like that for years. And they come and they throw a little bit of tarmac in it, and it's just horrendous. I've got a Cossack car, I can't take it out. I can't take my Cossack car out. I can't drive it anywhere because I can't get over the speed humps properly, and I can't get around the holes.
People are going along Ferry Road to the top and turning down to avoid that road. They shouldn't be doing that, it's causing more...
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I went along Blenheim Road yesterday,
Shocking.
and it's really bad.
Yeah,
And particularly where the road humps were, are still out. That's where it is bad. We've got such a reduced budget, but perhaps we should be talk about this in questions and
Well, should
answers.
Oak and Bottom then not be, you know, not
Okay,
have the
39,
same treatment that the rest of Breightmet's getting? Surely that can be just put on the back burner a little bit. It's a lot of money, it's tens of thousands that's been
Yeah.
spent on one road. And it's not a through road,
I
exactly.
think we'll take questions and answers after
Okay.
this. Roger.
Yeah. Is there any truth in the matter that half of Crossdale Road is going to be resurfaced? Because basically, there's that many potholes in one half of it that all they do is keep coming, renewing the potholes, and 4 weeks later, they come out again. But I've been told that they will be resurfacing half of it. Is there any truth in the matter?
I think it might be, that might be the case, I'm not sure. We've complained about Crossdale Road that many times. Perhaps that's what they're thinking that it might be as well if they do resurface just the bottom end of Crossdale. The high number end isn't too bad, it's the low number end, isn't it, where the wagons go into the building sites.
Well, it's a bus route.
Yeah, it is, yeah, you're right.
Is this a question about budgets or more general question?
It's about maintenance of the road.
We're coming on to that now. Yeah, item 6 is questions and answers, and that's where we're up to. So, but first of all, we'll do the written questions first of all. We've got quite a number of written questions, so we'll go through them, and then I'll take questions from the floor.
It's me again, folks. At the area forum, if we get a written question before the meeting, those are taken first in what is called the open forum questions section. So I've actually got 9 written questions here. If I read those questions out and the responses which we have to date, because we can't always respond to these questions in time for the meeting, if we haven't got a response, we will follow up the question and that will be put in the minutes or on the website, and the person asking the question will have an answer as well. So if you bear with me, I'll read the questions out and then I'll do the responses that I have. Yes, that's okay. The first question is actually from Chris Banks here tonight. Yeah. Neighbouring wards have for quite a few years provided community-based events that restore a sense of pride in the wards, providing poppies and lampposts in remembrance, sundry, wildflower meadows and flower boxes, Christmas lights and Christmas tree. They might seem minor things, but I believe these events and actions are important as they show people care about their ward and where they live. As an example, last week the Astley Bridge Area Forum, through the Friends of Astley Bridge, which is run by the councillors, held an all-day event to encourage volunteering in the community and allow people to better understand the services provided by the council. Yet, when I, as a leader of a local community group based at the south side of Breightmet, asked if we could just have 5 minutes to try and encourage volunteering and a sense of pride in our areas, and despite asking 7 days before the meeting, we were told no. Last year, St James Action Group was given an opportunity to talk about their community group, so I find it quite unfair that we've been treated differently when all we want to make improve our community, just like St James Action Group or Bolton UCAN, who have also been allowed to talk. The Area Forum agenda was not an immovable obstacle. All that was involved was adding an extra paragraph on a Word document, which is why I'm concerned that the promises made to provide poppies on the lampposts, wildflower meadows and flower boxes, Christmas lights and Christmas tree are empty promises made only to try and retain votes for the upcoming election. What assurances can this council provide that after the elections the effort will still be made to ensure they all go ahead? There's just a short response here regarding the agenda for the meeting from the Department of Place. The agenda for the meeting was made public and put on the Council's website 11 working days before the meeting. If the agenda has been made public, changes are made in emergency or exceptional circumstances. A community theme event will take place at a future meeting at which this request and the question can be accommodated. That's the response to that. Is it okay to go on to the...
I just wanted to respond to the comments about Christmas trees. About the Christmas trees. As you quite rightly say, other wards have Christmas trees and poppies, and what we're hoping to do, what we will do, is provide them for Breightmet this year. It's quite, I feel it's a bit offensive actually, to suggest that we would use them as an election tool, because we wouldn't. We've said we're going to go ahead, we've got the funding for it, and we are going to do it. We're working with other bodies, we're working with other businesses regarding the funding, and we're working with other bodies to get children in the ward involved as well. So it's the centenary of the end of the Great War, as you know. We wouldn't pay fast and loose with the sacrifice made by those men, and we certainly wouldn't use the remembrance parade or remembrance issues as any kind of election issue. We've made a pledge to the ward and we will see it through.
Thanks, Dave.
If we just go on to the second question, this question is from Chris Banks as well. I have made thousands of reports and I have cleared hundreds of tonnes of fly tipping. I recently asked Councillor Debbie Newell in person to join me on a fly tipping clearance with other Breightmet volunteers, and she was out delivering Christmas leaflets for Labour. Her reply was, I don't think so. Since early 2017, I have repeatedly asked all three councillors to attend so that they can understand the scale of the problem. As all three councillors do not live in Breightmet, not once have any of them attended, with Christmas being the only time a legitimate reason for not attending was provided. Bolton at Home and other social housing providers are failing in their duties to help tackle fly tipping. The vast majority of fly tip waste is dumped into Bolton Council land and the mere handful of tenants who are struggling with the slim bins. It is not acceptable that Bolton Council and Bolton at Home are allowing refuse and litter to accumulate on their land. What actions will this council be taking to ensure that council-owned land is kept to a Grade A standard as defined by the government's Code of Practice on litter and refuse? There is a response here from the Department of Place again, that's Department of Environment, no language. As required within section 89 of the Environment Protection Act 1990, the Council has taken regard of the Code of Practice and has done so since its introduction. In taking account of the requirement, the Council has planned the street cleansing service on land that the Council is responsible for as effectively and efficiently as possible within the practicable resource available. This plan is based on the land classes set out within the Code of Practice, along with land uses, population density and historic local knowledge, which has enabled us to target areas appropriately within our available resources. Where possible, there currently is a street cleansing presence in town centres on a daily basis. These zones, which have been identified as high or medium intensity, are cleaned on one of three frequencies, and that is either 18 times, 6 times or 3 times per year, dependent on the population density and local knowledge. In addition, we have a limited amount of reactive resource to respond where specific issues arise, and if there is an immediate health or safety risk associated with the accumulations of the litter. The Council will operate outside the scheduled programme. As well as street cleansing, the Council also has a proactive environmental education and enforcement unit which carries out community engagement and behaviour change work. The unit also investigates fly tipping and littering, including business waste, with offenders being prosecuted. I have also a couple of website addresses which we can make available, and people can, those both cover information on the street cleansing programme and when streets are due for the next clean. So those are all on the website, and those details will be in the minutes. And that's the response, the written response from the department.
Can I just add something to that? Breightmet is quite lucky in a way. I mean, everybody suffers from litter. Everyone in the borough suffers from litter. But in Breightmet, we've got quite a number of groups who do litter picking. And the councillors have, for years, worked with St James's litter picking group, and we've just got another community group who also do litter picking that we're involved with as well. So it is good that we've got so many people out there looking in the community picking litter, but we must remember that that litter shouldn't be there in the first place. It's the people who put it there that are at fault, not the people who should be there to pick it up. I think Debbie wants to say something.
Can I say something? Can I just say something? You know, around the Horse House near Sladeburn Avenue, there's several outlets where the Horse House pub used to be. And there's not a bin round there. There used to be one dog poo bin on a lamppost that I use regularly when I'm walking to the park. That's gone now. Apparently someone put fire in it. There's not one bin round there for all them young people, all them kids walking to school. And I know they shouldn't be dropping it, but I feel like I live in a bin.
Yeah, we've made a note of it.
It's one of my questions.
I just wanted to answer the part of the question where I was mentioned. Chris did ask me about going on a litter pick. It was actually Friday afternoon when he asked me about the litter pick on the Sunday morning. And I said, no, I don't think so. I mean, I couldn't go into more detail. And the reason I said, no, I don't think so, is I never do anything on the Sunday before Christmas because it's the anniversary of my mother's death, and I always spend that particular day with my sister. And that's just a personal reason why I never make arrangements for that particular day. But the point I'm stressing is I was asked on Friday afternoon to go somewhere on Sunday morning. So I don't think it's unreasonable.
Debbie, I've asked you multiple times, not just that one instance. So if you're going to say that as one example, it's not fair. There you go.
Do you mind not interrupting, please?
No, I'm done.
John, Linda and I go out litter picking very regularly. We go out with the St James Action Group. We have the Breightmet community volunteers that we go out with regularly. We go out with the Bolton Wildlife Trust and pick litter with them. We do pick litter. We can't join in with every group that asks us. We can't be there on every occasion.
Sorry,
But
how
we
often do you go out?
Will you please not interrupt? We do litter picking regularly. And we're out this Saturday morning. If anybody wants to join us, we'll decide on Saturday morning the response that we get, queries that we get from residents, particular grot spot, we will go and investigate, and we'll be out for a couple of hours on Saturday. But that particular incident, I'm just making the point that I was asked to do something on Friday afternoon to be done on Sunday morning, and on that occasion I couldn't accommodate him.
Just to say on a more positive note, we are working with some young people who are between 8 and 14 who want to form a little litter picking group. I think we can encourage other people to take this task on. And some of the mums and the parents have been saying that they were quite shocked that the child had a sweet tea and put his wrapper in his pocket. And it just shows you, once they get into it, it'll stay with them for life. I think get young people involved litter picking. I think it'll stay with them for life and not think about throwing litter away. I think it's the right thing to do, to put it in the bin.
Can I just add something, if that's all right?
Yeah.
The North Bolton litter pickers, 6 January, picked up nearly 7,000 bags of litter.
That's good.
These are all volunteers. They're just the sole pickers, they're groups, they're different groups with different little pockets for every 7,000 bags of litter.
That's brilliant.
It's good from the point of people volunteering to do it. It's bad from the point of it's people that are going out and doing it, and other people are still just dropping it, and there's no prosecution or it's just everyone else that's good natured cleaning up after them.
It's concealing a bigger problem, isn't it? That
It
people
is.
are dropping litter. By us clearing it up all the time, it's not showing how big the problem is. And if you don't provide a litter bin, then you're going to have this problem continuing. I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but providing a litter bin will, if 50% of people put litter in a litter bin, that 50% has litter. And if you don't provide a litter bin, unfortunately, people will drop
It's
litter.
funny you should say that, because with St James's litter collectors that me and John and Debbie are involved with, we regularly do the shops at Garstang, between Garstang and Forton, that row of shops there, and there is a number of bins there.
Two.
Yeah. And
There's no litter.
still throws litter on the floor, whether they're empty or
They can be full.
full.
No,
They can be full.
You can walk along there, those bins are full to the top. people even put them in carrier bags at the night, so the 2 M's isn't enough. But years ago, why can't shops, like the exact shops that you're talking about, be aware of their front of their shopping? When you used to have a shop, years ago when I went, I worked in a shop myself, your first job on the morning was sweep the pavement in front of your shop, make it presentable. If people find things presentable, they'll keep it presentable. It's like what you're saying about litter picking. Litter picking, I admire these people totally. That isn't the problem, it's the people that's dropping it. So you need to go into the schools to start with the children, to tell the parents, tell me, are you breaking the law when you drop litter?
Yeah, you are.
But why is nothing done about the whole of Bolton, not just Breightmet? It's like a tip everywhere, along Mossbank Way, everywhere you go, the whole town is full of a tip.
Yeah.
Totally disgrace.
Right.
Can we carry on with the
down here? I just walked up this, where the, I'm disoriented, where the children are,
Yeah.
and the pitch. And it looks as though possibly the litter bin has been burnt. Well, there's a whole pile of litter just at the corner there.
Yeah.
I think it's just the same that's and vandalism on the football pitch. I use taking bins, driving onto the football pitch and setting them on fire. It not only destroys the bins,
It destroys the pitch.
it destroys the
Yeah,
pitch. We've
The
had to
soft surface.
soft surface, a special playing surface. It's cost us quite a lot of money to replace.
Why can't we hear this campaign say, headlines in the Bolton Evening News about it? People are going to be fined if they're caught.
They have been.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, anything. The people that drop it, if there's no money to pay the fines, well, why can't they for a day do litter picking, see what it's like? Then back and drop it.
Couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
Can we carry on with the questions?
This is the third written question.
Did you say the first 88% is 64%?
Again from Chris, thanks for that correction. In 2014, 64% of the Area Forum budget was allocated by our 3 councillors to projects north of Berry Road, and in 2017, 91% of the Area Forum budget was allocated by our 3 councillors to projects north of Berry Road. On review of the wildflower budget from the past few years, you somehow wasted thousands of pounds on a project that should have cost on the 8th of the budget. North of Berry Road, there is the Wildlife Trust, Men and Sheds, Breightmet UCAN, Breightmet Men and Sheds, Deepdale Centre, Elderdale Centre, Wagon Road Centre, and in the south of Breightmet we have a closed children's centre, closed cafe and closed community centre at Leverhulme Park. What actions is this council and Bolton at Home doing to ensure that the south side of Berry Road is given fairer treatment in the distribution of Area Forum budget and council resources? If I just read out the written response to that question from the Department of Place, it would appear that the information in the above statement has been drawn from the budget approvals reported to the Area Forum since 2014. These are available on the council website. This analysis can, however, be misleading. Members of the community and voluntary groups or those participating in projects are drawn from across the ward regardless of the community group or project base. Services provided by the council address issues across Breightmet and are not determined by the location of roadways.
Right. So another question.
The next question, 3 questions actually from another person who wishes to remain anonymous. The person has actually supplied their name and address but wishes to remain anonymous. First question is, can you please provide the total number of requests from community groups or other that have applied for funding from the Area Forum this year that are situated south of Berry Road? An example would be the Bolton North East Wildlife Trail. Can you also please provide the total number of funding requested from all these groups south of Berry Road and what was requested? Finally, can you provide the total amount of funding that was approved south of Berry Road via the Area Forum budget that our 3 Breightmet councillors allocated? The response I have to that from the Department of Place again is that information is available on successful applications only and not the bids. Approvals are recorded in the Area Forum minutes as stated earlier. We don't have that information.
Can I just go back to the cafe point? The cafe wasn't owned by the council or the councillors, it was rented by a private company, and they decided they want to finish. There's nothing to do about that, they just go. And as far as the children's centre, there's some services still work out of that, you know. And the community centre still open, just to refurbish it.
Functions
Onto that, yeah.
The basketball pitch has been, well, that can't be used, can it? That's been in the rain for a long time. There's no facilities really on the south side. There's no parks. One little park, really, just it's not much on the south side, but they're very well.
That was vandalised again, you know, they just...
What do we, so...
We've tried to refurbish, well, every time you refurbish something, clear the surface and resurface the surface, they keep getting vandalised, you know.
Could you not put a camera up?
Well, the trouble with cameras is you need something to you know, we haven't got the money to it. The actual physical camera can go up, it's somebody monitoring that camera, it's right. We haven't got the resources anymore. Remember, we had 156 million pounds per year cut from our budget. It's over 40% of our budget. So anybody in this room, if you had 40% of your budget cut from your household bills every year, it's a staggering amount. And we're struggling. I mean, some of the conservative countries, such as Syria and Northampton, what one do you have? Got time here in Northampton, and Syria's got £100 million in the debt. So we're really struggling to keep on top of the services we provide now.
What about the reserves, Bolton Council?
We've spent 15 million last year and 15 million this year to prop up the budget. We've now got 140 million. But a lot of this, remember, a lot of this budget is, especially reserves, is to cover other projects. You know, if we're doing a big project, we need to have some money in reserves. It's like yourself in your bank account, you keep something in reserve, don't
So
you?
you've got about 140 million
Yeah.
reserves.
Yeah, but it's all, most of it's allocated.
Mainly on looked after children.
There's all sorts of projects we're still covering.
Vulnerable adults, looked after children.
The children in Breightmet need something to do. They need facilities.
Yeah.
So the only ward in Bolton Borough with 2 youth clubs. That's the whole of Bolton Borough with 2 youth clubs.
Who are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually one in Lee Green. Yeah. It's the only ward in Bolton that, you know, we retain them to use them.
Sorry. Get more questions.
Just read a second question from the second person. Councillor John Byrne and his wife Linda Byrne have been personally responsible in the late 90s for the disposal of charity land at Hume Park to allow the construction of a five-a-side football pitch, which is a great thing for the community, but that money generated from the land belongs to the charity Hume Park, which this council has been putting into their own finances. You may remember how this council openly lied about the trustees being an external group, when in fact it was then acting Council Leader Cliff Morris, who failed to declare his trustee role nor his conflict interest in approving the construction, which was a violation of the covenant. By late 2017, this council had to make a full disclosure of its failure over the finances of the charity. The allocations of land, and recently they've been reported again by subsidising their own expenses in the management of the charitable land by helping themselves to charity incomes generated from the land. Will Bolton Council appoint a charity trustee external from the council, somebody without political association, so that the people of Bolton can be properly represented by someone who will uphold the covenant and put them first? Just given the content of that question, it has been passed to legal services and they haven't provided a response yet. However, when legal services have made their response, we will put that to the minutes and the person asking the question will have that response. The third question is from that same second person. The group BRASS, Befriending Refugee and Asylum Seekers, releases an annual report, and in the 2015-16 report it highlighted that Bolton Home was responsible for housing over 60% of refugees. When you removed circle figures which house asylum seekers. Upon further communication with BRASS, it was stated that Bolton at-home refugees are classed as vulnerable status, which puts them ahead of local residents. Is Bolton Council at all concerned that local Breightmet residents who wish for their children or grandchildren to live in the same ward as them are being denied this opportunity because this council has voluntarily signed up to the Gateway Protection Programme and has housed over 2,400 refugees? What action is this council taking to ensure that local residents who have lived here all their lives, those who are being denied opportunities to be housed locally, do not become resentful towards vulnerable refugees because of policy that has accepted 27% of refugees under the scheme for the entire country? There is a response here from the Department of Place, which is where the Housing Services Department sits. Bolton at Home, as other independent social housing providers across Bolton, is bound to operate within an allocations framework defined through central government legislation. Guidance and case law requiring adherence to Part 6 of the Housing Act 1996, applicants cannot be excluded on the basis of local connection. Landlords may, however, seek to apply a preference for a proportion of applicants for a number of reasons, such as employment, community activity, or indeed local connection, provided this does not discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone within the protected characteristics as defined by Section 4 of the Equality Act 2010 across the scheme as a whole. Within the context of that legislation, there have been a number of examples across Bolton whereby preference has been afforded to applicants with connections to particular localities. These connections being defined by residence, familial connection, employment, or other special reason, albeit also within the context of the Equality Act. Indeed, one of the borough's largest new build schemes in recent years is in Wagon Road area, the scheme just behind us actually. It was delivered by Great Places Housing Group, covering over 120 2- and 3-bed properties, and it provided over 50% preference for those with a local connection to the Breightmet area for households in housing need. There have been similar approaches adopted across the borough.
Thank you.
There are 3 more questions from another resident, again, who wishes to remain anonymous, but the name and address was supplied when we submitted the question. The streets throughout Bolton are strewn with litter. A Freedom of Information request revealed that Bolton has roughly 900 litter bins, whilst similar sized authorities to Bolton have as many as 2,700 public litter bins. A previous request for a bin outside St Osmond's and Andrews on Broderick Drive was refused at last year's Area Forum. Are the councils here aware that there are 18 litter bins along Darwin Road in Bromley Cross, with some even opposite each other and one at nearly every bus stop? Are the councillors aware that there are none along Blenheim Road, Broderick Drive and Somerton Road? Bolton Green Umbrella will provide a volunteer bin for £65. If the councillors cannot get my area of Breightmet a litter bin, will the Area Forum allocate us a volunteer bin and I will empty it myself? Are the councillors aware that we have a resident who puts out 3 black bin bags for dog poo on the Bolton to Bury cycle lane and then empties them on a weekly basis? The council has provided a good facility with the Bolton to Bury cycle lane, but are falling short on the government code of practice for litter and refuse, as Breightmet suffers from a significant number of sites that can be categorised as grade D, the worst possible. We do have a response from the Department of Place on this one. And that is that Bolton Council work closely with Bolton Green Umbrella and have supported their use of volunteer litter bins in low footfall areas such as this. The Council would be happy to discuss the issue with the Green Umbrella Group to look into the feasibility of purchasing demountable litter bins for this location to be serviced by volunteer groups.
Can I just say, why do you have 18 litter bins on Darwin Road in the War Memorial to the bottom of Darwin Road? Why put so many on one road and none on another? We are working as one Bolton Council, not just Breightmet Council.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer the point made about the lady with the black bin bags for dog poo. I know this lady because she actually approached us to say that she wanted to do this. She wanted to do this initiative, cleaning up the dog mess on that path. And we helped her with getting some signage up both on the path and on the actual post where she puts the bags. So, yeah, she's a lady. So, you know, we are aware that residents do come forward and, you know, speak to us individually about different things they want to do in their area. The problem that we've had, and the problem that we've had in the past is we can't get a new bin. I mean, we obviously we'll look into this with the volunteer bins, but actual bins that you're asking for, we don't have the budget to supply new bins, and I'm sorry.
Is the signage still now? Is the signage up now?
Well, it was put up last year.
Is it up now?
I don't know whether it's up now. I'm saying it was put up last year. When she made the request and when she told us that she wanted to do this
What did the signage say?
dog fouling. It was signage about dog fouling.
No.
Yeah. Telling people not to let the dogs foul. And
Is it still there, do you know?
I've not been down there for a while, but I can speak to the lady again and see if it's still there. I would imagine that it is, because I think she probably would have come back to me and said that the signage is gone, because we can get it, if it has gone, we can get it replaced, that's not a problem, we can get the signage replaced, that isn't a problem.
Yeah, can I just say, can one of the bins in an area which, like I say, on Darwin Road, there's 18, Darwin Road, it's between the Warming Road and Tom.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Yeah.
We've made a note.
Yeah, because I do think we are just one Bolton council, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I do think Breightmet should be treated
I agree.
in the same way.
Yes.
18. And you have to see council drive along.
Excuse me, can we just say we have to go, because we only heard about this meeting 2 days ago, and we already had an appointment for somewhere at 8 o'clock there, so excuse us. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Right, the last question.
Well, it's the second last question actually, of this person. And the question is, the condition of roads in Bolton is disgraceful. In my opinion, our roads are some of the worst in Greater Manchester. When was the last time any of our councillors drove along Glenham Road? The speed humps are a disgrace and are nothing short of dangerous. Will the council either replace them or completely remove them? I do not see any of my council tax money being spent on roads in the area south of Berry Road, and I think it is high time that some of the large reserves held by Bolton Council were spent on road maintenance. What do the councillors think of the condition of our roads? I just say we are awaiting a response on that one from the Highways Services Department.
Yeah.
I think the point is that road is a bus road, and those humps will get an awful lot of wear and tear. It's a main road. And also, while we're talking about this, it would be fantastic if the people who lived on Glenham Road, with the council houses there, where they could have lay-bys to get some of the traffic off that road, because it's dangerous for the people walking with cramps and children walking along that road.
Can I just address that point to you? John and I, Linda, had meetings earlier in the year with a group of residents from that area who asked just that question. We met with them several times, didn't we? And we actually got people from Bolton home down to meet with them too. And I'm sorry, it is a question of funding, and it will cost an absolute fortune, because it's not as simple as just say taking the glass up and laying some tarmac. A lot of the expenses, because of the services that run underneath it, they have to be moved. So it has been investigated, that it has been looked at. You know, things change. There might be a time in the future where councils are funded better than they are now. And at that time, when there is more money, obviously those things you can revisit. But totally agree with you about Glenham Road. It is a disgrace, but as we said, if you forgive the pun, and this is a pun, and I'm not trying to be humorous, there's a massive hole in the funding for roads. In this borough, it's in the region of £77 million difference between what we should have had and what we've had. So, and we're in 8 years into this programme now. So we're on the bare bones, and it is wrong and it is bad, and I'm not trying to minimise it
And I
at
just
all.
ask you a question then. How much would each person or house in the borough have to pay extra to get better roads in the area? How much will you have to pay, do you think? Is it, would people not be to say £10 a small
1% on your council.
You're then asking people who don't use the highway to spend some...
Everybody uses the highway when they're on the road,
You know what I mean?
big taxi, a force car.
Well, people know to pay more on cheaper, you know, it's difficult.
I would pay more.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of people in this room.
I've just been told it's 77 million divided by 270,000 people. So if anyone's good at maths.
That's a very rough number.
No, 1% on your council tax is that raises
Yeah, can we just read the last question out first?
One more written question. My understanding is that all UCAN centres are run by Bolton at Home, yet the ward of Halliwell is given special privilege by being given a UCAN centre financed by Bolton Council. In a time of austerity in which budgets are being drastically cut, yet the council managed to find £300,000 to give to ACES. Is it acceptable or ethical that one ward should be given special privileges within a UCAN centre that uses council taxpayers' money? Is this because Halliwell Ward is home to the former council leader, Clifford Morris, and acting council leader, Linda Thomas? I've got a response to this question from the Department of Place. The UCAN centres are managed by a range of partners, including Bolton at Home, Irwell Valley Housing, Moss Care St Vincent's and the council. When Bolton at Home was formed, the management of some UCANs became its responsibility as a result of the stock transfer process. Halliwell UCAN was not part of the stock transfer process and remained under council management. The council is currently looking to develop another UCAN and will continue to work with partners to sustain Bolton's UCAN network as funding sources are found. That's the last.
Right, thank you for that, John. We've got questions from the floor now. I believe we've got a group of teachers from Red Lane who'd like to ask a question. Sorry, Settles from Red Lane. Sorry about that. We want to ask a question.
That's me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm the acting head at Red Lane, which is getting increasingly concerned about the amount of antisocial behaviour and vandalism that we're experiencing. Only this week we've had a group of in excess of 20 youths on our roof from doing bedtime stories for a group of children. We've had our minibus windscreen smash, which is going to cost in excess of £1,000. I know what you're saying about things are being vandalised and you can't replace them, so these children are going elsewhere. As a school, we're having to foot the bill because those other things aren't being replaced. So whilst it looks like the money's not coming out, actually it's coming out of our funds in school, and actually what's being done to address this antisocial behaviour problem.
I wonder if I can ask Paul. Could you perhaps help us with this?
I can't possibly comment on council budget.
No, I'm talking about the vandalism in the area.
Well, regards to vandalism, I'll speak to Mrs. Cromie afterwards.
Right.
We had a quick chat prior to the meeting starting, and I'm more than happy to address concerns there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a question from parents of St Osmond's, I believe.
Are you aware of the local school, St Osmond's and Andrews, losing up to 12 teaching assistants?
Yeah.
I believe I spoke to John before I'd even wrote this question, and he said the chair of governors has emailed you.
Yeah.
Why are we getting cuts in a Labour constituency?
There's cuts in all areas, in over the council completely, but it is up to the school where they reduce the budget, where they make them cuts. So I believe, do you want to come in here, Jack?
The education budget is a transfer, it's given to the council, but it's the figures that come from the government, and that's what we transfer them to each school. So we don't have any leeway in the budgets. It's just, I'm sure you know that, don't you? It's comes straight from the government into our coffers and then goes straight out to each school. And it's designed, and the amounts are given to us by the government, and that's how much each school gets. I think you, sorry.
Obviously, I spoke to you. I think the main thing as well that the community needs to be aware of is this concept of the school. All schools are losing TAs, there's no doubt in that. All schools are struggling with budgets. I work in a school myself, we're all having the same problems. I think the significance of St Osmond's and Andrews is the sheer numbers of staff, support staff, compared to the size of the school in one hit. I, working in education, can't possibly see how a school will maintain its standards and support the children in our area with that amount of support staff being removed in one go. And I think the question that possibly parents need the council's help with is what, there seems to be some, there's no clarity on the intake numbers. The school has recently spent money on an extension for double intake. The double intake is no longer happening. So I think if someone in the council can clarify whether there's an issue with birth rates in the area, whether there's an issue with numbers, because I can't possibly imagine there is, as to why, after money has been spent for double intake, that the double intake is no longer happening.
I support what you just said there, Karen, about across the borough, because I went to see somebody from HR after the chair from St Osmond's contacted education HR involved, just mostly HR, because they do for your schools, our HR. We do most schools anyway, the HR department in the education department at Bolton. And I went to ask him about this, he said it's across the borough, TAs are going across the borough, and it needs looking at as why we're doing it. And I think there's a very valid point about what's the birth rate, what is this bubbling birth rate? Has it gone or is it not gone, or how's the miscalculation?
Right, has anyone got any questions?
I'd like to ask a question. How regularly do the roads be inspected? That is, i.e., somebody comes along, draws a chalk mark around the hole, if it's to be filled in, someone left, and so on and so forth. How often is that done? And the reason I ask is if you go to, let's say, Garstang Road in junction with Blenheim Road, excuse the expression, there are two sleeping policemen on either side of that road, and they're absolutely rolling. If you go over it, you're like that. It's dangerous. The other one, it's lost its rounders. It's sharp at the end.
Yeah.
You don't go over it, you bang into
Is that on
it.
Blenheim Road?
So I just want to know how often people come around that particular area. And we can also talk about Somerset Road at the top end, in junction with Bolton Berry Road. There's a great big crater there.
Regular.
Product Drive and so on and so forth. So all these actually need to be looked at. I know we talk about budgets, but at the end of the day, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And I hope you as council members actually recommend certain areas to be done.
Yeah, we do.
Or do they recommend to you what
Just to go back
areas
to
should
your
be done? I don't
question,
know.
how often are they inspected? I don't know the answer to that, but we do get lots of phone calls, we get lots of cases, we go about potholes, and we go out and inspect them ourselves, and then we report them. Some potholes aren't too bad, sometimes it's just that the road surface has got a bit loose. But some potholes, I went along Crossdale Road yesterday, and it were quite deep, in fact the car banged down it. So I will try and find out how often they are inspected via highways.
Yeah, if you will.
And I'll get back to you,
Okay.
or John will get back to you.
But we'll take that item you mentioned, we'll go and inspect it ourselves as Linda says, and then we'll report.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Just one more question, and it's to do with the environment in a way.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Is if you go on to Crinan Way, which is the back of
Yeah,
St.
yeah.
there is a bin there. people walk the dogs along there and they put poo bags in and so on and so forth. You've probably seen it. It's in front of the Tandy.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
It gets full within a week. When is the collection made? Fortnight, maybe 3 weeks. It's totally full. They start landing on the ground. Then there's rubbish landing on the ground, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, there's even a chest freezer dumped on the grass. Now, to me, I would recommend at least, you can't put a fridge freezer in, of course, recommend another bin for that to accompany that other one, so that people may be more encouraged to actually put the stuff
I don't think they put another bin there, but what we have done in the past is ask for a bigger bin, one that's probably double the size. I can't remember how many litres they are, but in the past we have asked for a bigger bin, and they've removed the smaller one to reuse it somewhere else. And put a bigger one there if they've realised that...
It's the one with the wheelie bin inside. It's like a steel cabinet with a wheelie bin inside.
Yeah. I do know that the residents around there had actually collected rubbish themselves.
Yeah.
And there are something like 12 sacks of rubbish beside the bin. Somebody put on a sticker there to say, Bolton Council don't care about Breightmet. I don't know if you've heard that, but that was stuck onto the bin. All of a sudden, the bin was empty the following day. Why is that happening? Why should it be a reaction as opposed to something that should be there all the time? So I would request another bin there.
To get to that bin, that's why it gets so full, because there aren't any other bins around.
Yes, well, I'll look at the Bromley Cross ones.
Yeah, please do.
And I'll have a look at the one on Crinning Drive, near the shop. It's near the...
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the middle of the green. The back of the Sandy, their car park and there's the bin, right on the centre. It just needs another one to at least help other people to think, oh yeah, I can put something away into that rather than fling it on the ground.
Right, Roger, have you got a question?
Yeah. It's related to the latest development, Audi, etc. Prior to it being developed, I went to the Masonic Hall at Breightmet Road. I spoke to the transport manager, and he said, you know, obviously, if people have problems, he said, what is your problem? And I said, well, to be quite honest with you, I can't see how Breightmet 4 Lane onto Milthorpe Road can deal with the traffic. And he said, I quite agree with you. He said, in fact, he said, we have suggested to Bolton Council that we will put some money forward for a different entrance or exit. Now, on Breightmet 4 Lane onto Milthorpe Road, I am sick to death of keep bringing this forward because it's gridlock at times of the day. Because if somebody's turning right, nobody can turn left. And it's a simple exercise to sort it out. As a result, what happens is they come up Crossdale Road. There's 20-mile-an-hour signs on the lamppost, which you can't see, by the way, half of them. And I was speaking to a police officer this afternoon, a lady police officer, and I pointed out to this lady, and there was traffic going past at 40, 45 miles an hour and 50 miles an hour. And she had acknowledged this. And there are restriction signs on Crossdale Road that unless you live in that area, you should not be going through. Now, I'm sick to death of being pushed to one side. I've lived in Breightmet 55 years, and there was no old folks home. There were no industrial estates, there were no shops, it were fields. And as a result of things being built, and it's quite successful, this new site, I don't object to it, but I do object to the fact that we are getting traffic through there that should not be coming through. And it's a police matter. Because at the end of the day, they're coming through, there's one guy comes through every night, and I mean, I don't know what's in his head. Sometimes he's doing 50 miles an hour. And basically, at the end of the day, nothing will happen until somebody there's an accident. And I'd love for something to happen about this, because I'm just being pushed from one side to another. And this business about there's no money in the kitty, I just have to ask you this question. There's all that industrial estate, there's old folks' homes, there's all the houses around where revenue's coming through the door. Now what is happening with that revenue? Surely there should be enough revenue there that can sort that junction out for one, and also either put speed humps on across the old road because it can assure you traffic are coming through. And what it needs is a police car, well not a police car, but somebody with a camera, and they'll make themselves a fortune in about half an hour.
I don't know whether you remember, Roger, but I went to that meeting, and John and Debbie, at Bradford Moor Road. I think it was the Freemasons area, all, wasn't it?
Yes.
And we spoke to the transport about the concern that we had about the amount of traffic that would be going up and down Breightmet Area, because it's not a wide lane, it's quite narrow. And it's busy also with the health centre and the library. And John suggested that they put the entrance into the Aldi shopping area on Bury Road, so that we could have lights, if you can imagine it, we could have a set of lights at the junction of top of Garstang Avenue, going straight across into the shopping area. But for some reason, I don't know why. Do you have any idea why? They said it couldn't be done.
Usually, we ask the developer to contribute or pay for the scheme. If he's not prepared to do it, we haven't got the budget to do it. And going back to your point about, you must have missed the point I made about the £156 million of cuts that we have every year.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So, but all this money that comes into from the industrial estate, etc., goes to cover the loss. It's just propping the budget up. That's all it is.
So nothing's going to happen then?
No, we'll take it away and talk to John Kelly and try and resolve it. We say this every time, Roger. It's difficult. But, I knew there wouldn't be a problem. We can see it straight away.
Why were they given planning permission to do it without being told that they have to provide evidence and evidence?
Yeah. Well, the highways, they do surveys, and they said that the surveys showed that it wouldn't be of a detrimental effect. But we knew that, and we pressed that case. We lived there, so we knew the scale of that. The road traffic, plus all the extra shops, because we didn't just get Aldi, did we got Iceland and all the other shops that go with it. So we knew the extra traffic. Well, I'll take it up with the highways engineers, see if we get a scheme.
Just take one last question now, Karen. Okay, I'll take two. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Sorry, can I just ask for a quick plea? Because obviously we have had two schools here in our area that have obviously come here with significant issues. And obviously a lot of the issues are without the council's control because they come from higher budgets. So, I mean, many of you probably have children gone to school in the areas, or you've got grandchildren or nieces and nephews, etc. If you could please lobby the Education Secretary and the Home Office for the issues that are happening, that are affecting us all locally, because they are the ones in control of everyone's budgets at the moment. The antisocial behaviour is going to be very difficult to control because the police budgets have been cut. Issues in education, educating children for litter, when the schools are struggling, full stop, we're struggling to buy resources and fund staff. So if I could please ask you to just take that time out to send them emails and then letters, we would be very grateful. Thank you.
Right, one last question from Mr. Openshaw.
Can anything be done about the near the petrol station on Berry Road where the church used to be? They demolished the church and there is new stuff being dumped on there by, I don't know, builders, there's concrete posts, there's all kinds of things being built on. Also, around the side, there's been fly tipping, there's been settees and things built around there. And it's a real eyesore.
Do you mean the old
church?
Methodist church?
Yeah.
The old Methodist.
Yeah.
Well, you got planning permission to. He was going to use the stone to create a new dwelling.
I think most of the stone's gone, hasn't it?
Well, it's gone.
It's just a...
I know he had somewhere at the back. If you go around the path, you can see there's some stored at the back. Well, there's the enforcement issue about whether this is a difficult one, because at the moment we have land in Breightmet, it's not been developed. We have planning permission for the old St Osmond's, St Andrews football pitch, planning permission was quite a few years, but the developer won't develop it. And this might be a similar case, but once you've got planning permission, you've started work, he may have to come back and get retrospective planning consent again, because he's not starting the development.
But there's new stuff being taken,
Yeah,
being brought on and done. Thank you.
Right, thank you everyone for attending. The date of the next meeting hasn't been set yet, however residents will be notified, so looking forward to seeing you all quite soon.
Can I just put an apology out to people? I look after the libraries and arts and museums, and anybody who uses the Central Library we're going to have to shut from 24th, 25th and 26th of this month, March. We're getting the library back to, since what's been done on the Egyptology, the developers are giving us back. But with 25,000 books and cases to load up, bring from storage and put in onto racks back in the library. So all the staff will be involved in that all the weekend. So it's ready for the Easter weekend. Something we can't help, it's just the fact we need every hand, every librarian, every volunteer to come along and help us to put all the books back in place.
Will my fines
I'm sure they'll look at that sympathetically.
Certainly made a note of it in the
Thank you, Roger.